Good afternoon. Today we will be discussing Uberwhelming information asymmetry.
To give some context to our presentation, we will start with some definitions. Information asymmetry is defined as a difference in two or more parties' access to relevant knowledge. This means that one party has less information than another party. Therefore, problems can arise. One problem within information asymmetry is the principal-agent problem. This occurs when the person with less information, or the principal, is dealing with a more informed person, or the agent, to make decisions that will directly affect the principal's own well-being. A problem arises when agents pursue their own goals rather than the goals of the principal. For Uber, the customer who is riding in the Uber is the principal, and Uber is defined as the agent acting on behalf of the rider. The driver of the Uber is defined as an intermediary in the transaction. However, the driver may hold more information than the rider, resulting in information asymmetry and a separate principal-agent problem between the driver and the rider. Uber participates in the shared economy. A shared economy involves collaborative consumption or peer-to-peer transactions where participants share access to products or services rather than having individual ownership.
What sorts of aspects go into calculating the price of an Uber fare? After all, consumers should be aware of how and why their fares rarely seem consistent. Uber fares include the 6 various parts listed here. According to Uber, the rates increase to ensure reliability when demand can't be met by the number of drivers on the road. At times of high demand, the number of drivers they can connect consumers with becomes limited. As a result, prices increase to encourage more drivers to become available. Consumers see a notification screen in the app whenever there is surge pricing. Consumers have to accept those higher rates before Uber connects them to a driver. A study was conducted to see if Uber surge pricing does in fact increase driver supply and reduce wait times for consumers. The study found that it does reduce wait times, but only in certain areas. The surge pricing doesn't actually increase the supply of drivers. It only pushes drivers already on the job to neighborhoods with higher demand and higher surge pricing. As a result, it increases wait times in other neighborhoods.
So are Uber employees or independent contractors? Uber's business model is based off the idea that their drivers are not traditional employees, so they are independent contractors. However, there's an argument. The argument for whether someone is an employee or an independent contractor is based off of what's called transferable decisions. Transferable decisions can be made by either the firm, so in this case it would be Uber, or their professionals, in this case being the drivers. An example would be what kind of car the Uber driver uses. If these decisions are controlled by Uber, then it is a traditional business. If the decisions are controlled by the drivers, then the firm is operating as a platform. So where does Uber fall? There's really a gray area. Regulation has not been adjusted to account for the shared economy. There's an attempt to balance incentives and control. So why should the drivers provide service? Because they are forced to, or because they have incentive to make more money? So this isn't really clear. Uber takes 20% of the commission from drivers, so this is really leaning toward more of a contractor. However, there is a new potential category of worker called dependent contractors, which we will talk about later. There's another side of the argument for employees. In June, the California Labor Commission ruled that a driver from San Francisco was an employee. So while operating costs are primarily on the drivers, so this includes their car, gas, those types of things, Uber has the ultimate control over operations with strict standards. Whenever a driver is out on the road, Uber controls how many rides they need to accept while on the road, and if they don't, they can essentially be fired. They also control how they should act with passengers and reserve the right to, quote, deactivate their accounts, which is essentially firing. In this case, there's asymmetric information where the drivers are unaware of how their employment is affected by this unknown category. Uber retains control and is able to make decisions regarding the drivers based on the premise that they are creating their own category.
This summer, new laws were implemented in 19 states to raise insurance for Uber drivers. However, this insurance only covers liability. It does not cover collision or other damages. Also, the driver is not covered for bodily damage to himself if they are at fault. Finally, they also must purchase a special policy in order to be covered during pre-ride hours or personal time. Uber should be required to disclose their methods for pricing so no consumers are surprised if there are price surges. Drivers also should be recognized as dependent contractors and further protected from Uber's use of asymmetric information.